There's a great anecdote from the jazz age, and it goes like this. F. Scott Fitzgerald and Ernest Hemingway are at a party in Paris having a drink. Fitzgerald turns to Hemingway and says, "You know, the rich are very different from you and I." To which Hemingway replies, "Yeah, they have more money." I think I've brought along two vehicles that prove each man's point. The first one is the Mercedes-Benz CL65 AMG, and the other one is the all-new Aston Martin DB9. So how do you even start comparing these two $200,000 luxury items? I think dynamic testing is as good a place as any. So we're going to start here in the Aston Martin DB9, and we're going to see how quickly it goes through the quarter mile. Launching this car is a little tricky. It doesn't have a launch mode, and the trick is you got to keep your foot on the brake, give it a little bit of revs, and then as soon as it gets to about 1,000 RPMs, dump the brake. Otherwise, if you give it too much, it's just tire smoke, and if you give it not enough, it bogs down. So see if I can get this. We're also going to use the paddle shifters to switch gears, and because there's no indicated red line, I got to really watch the tach. Okay. 60 happens in 4.1 seconds. Before we get down the quarter mile in 12.4 at 115 miles per hour. It's pretty quick. And now we do 60 to 0 braking. Here we go. Oh. All that squealing you heard was the big carbon ceramic brakes hauling this sucker to a stop in 100 feet. That's good. All right, so we're gonna start figure eighting in the Aston Martin DB9. Remember, this has a little bit more power than the outgoing car. It's got the same horsepower as the DBS, which is no longer with us. And I gotta tell you, this is a great car. It's kind of got everything you want, man. Big V12 motor, rear wheel drive, I got everything turned off, and these brakes, I love these brakes. They feel like they could do this all day, and it's in a little bit of either steering modulation or throttle modulation. It's fairly easy to kind of pin the car where you want it to go, although it is heavy. It's over 3,800 pounds, so it's kind of riding that fine line between a sports car and a GT, but it feels fun out here. It's a lot of fun. I will say the throttle response, I wish it had a cable. It could be a little bit better, but still pretty good. And these brakes, let me overemphasize the brakes. They are awesome. Well, now we launched the big Mercedes, and the thing you got to know about the CL is it has so much torque. Again, 738 pound-feet of torque that if you just floor it, the rear tires go up in a cloud of smoke. So the trick is to roll on slow. Luckily, because it has so much torque, it eventually does get going pretty quick. Ready? Here we go. Okay, little wheel spin. And 60 miles an hour happens in 4.1 seconds. And you just keep your foot in it. And eventually you run through the quarter mile in 12.3 seconds at 118 miles per hour. And now we do the 60 to 0 braking test. And remember, this car weighs 4,847 pounds. You ready? Here we go. Pretty amazingly, this car with all that weight stops in 109 feet. Here we are figure eighting the CL65, and you do notice the weight in this thing. It is a big girl, but it also has humongous power, so you can kind of make up for your lack of precision with throttle. You know, it's surprisingly fun because remember, this is like a cut down S-Class. It's about 300 pounds lighter than a comparable S65, but man, is it fun. I like this thing. Again, it's sloppy, but what a fun car. While the figure 8 is fun, it's not exactly the best place to put these two super coupes through their paces. A twisty section of Angeles Crest Highway, however, is just what the wealthy orthodontist ordered. Hello! Welcome to the all-new Aston Martin DB9. What is the DB9? I'm glad you asked. Essentially, you take the kind of suspension components and the go-fast bits off of the now-defunct Virage, and you combine them with the engine that's out of the now-defunct DBS. It's a 5.9-liter V12, makes 510 horsepower, and you wrap it all up with the sexy good looks of the Aston Martin DB9. So this chassis is related to the new Vanquish. It's the fourth generation of Aston Martin's VH platform, or vertical horizontal, which means you have a lot of kind of bonded and extruded aluminum and carbon fiber parts, and they can just kind of increase the length and decrease the width or whatever they need for whatever car they're working on. Also borrowed from the Vanquish is this new 3-position shock absorbers. And you have a street mode, you have a sport mode, and then you have a very, very stiff track mode. And all three modes are surprisingly really good. Usually when you're not talking about the magnetic shocks you get in stuff like the big Corvettes and Ferraris, adjustable shocks aren't so good. This car, they're pretty good. This is a very good car. For $200,000, obviously it should be, but it is a very good car. In fact, I think it's one that you could happily live with on an everyday basis. But why would you, when for about the same money, you could have this? This is, again, the Mercedes CL65. Where to begin? Look, we already know it's faster than the DB9 in a straight line. Up here on a winding mountain road, you know what? It feels about as fast. For such a monstrous car that weighs 1,000 pounds more, this thing handles really well. But it's not its forte. Where this car really comes into its own is straight line travel, like, say, the Autobahn, or a couple weeks ago when my wife and I took it out to Vegas. Rarely, if ever, maybe never, driven a car that can pop up from 80 miles an hour to 120 in such a relaxed, calm manner. This car, I think, actually lowers your blood pressure. And I don't mean that in any way it's boring, but it's more like, you've had a long day and you go home and you slide into your spot on the couch and just, And that's how it is in this car, even when you're going at triple-digit speeds, which you will be doing because of this maniac of an engine. Again, 6 liters, 12 cylinders, 2 turbos, 621 horsepower, and 738 pound-feet of torque. You take the Audi R8 with the V10 engine. All 4 wheels get to fight over about that much torque. In the CL65, each of the rear tires gets 379 pound-feet of torque. It's absurd. No, it's obscene. And it's wonderfully so. You might complain it's only got a 5-speed transmission. Who cares? You could get away with 1 speed, 2 speeds, 3 speeds. I mean, it's just such a good engine. Again, Mr. Michael Kubler, excellent job. I've said a lot of good things. The one thing I am a little bit worried about with the CL is that it's going away. I drove the S65, very nice car, wonderful car, but it's not as good for some reason as the CL is. And all I really did was, cut a few inches out of it, remove 300 pounds, and it just makes this car kind of almost, magical might be the word. And it reminds me of one of my favorite styles of automobiles, and that's the personal luxury coupe. What's a personal luxury coupe? Well, you got to roll your mental calendar back to the 1970s and think about stuff like the Cadillac Eldorado, Coupe de Ville, Lincoln Mark 345, just preposterously large cars with only 2 doors. And that's what this is. And actually, that's what worries me about the next CL, is that this might go away. In fact, we got a sneak peek of the next CL, and it looks a lot more like the DB9 than it does this car. It looks more like a sports car, not a personal luxury coupe. And I think that's too bad. So, if you have around $200,000 and you want to buy something with a V12, buy the CL65. And you know what? If you can afford the CL65, you can also afford the DB9. So no losers here. Oh, what a car.